Okay, guys, I'd like to start and just point out a couple of things that might be a little confusing, and then we're actually going to submit homework. We're going to go through that whole process. So first things first, I just want to point out this is in a Macintosh world. This doesn't happen, or at least to my knowledge, in a Windows world. So I just want to point out a couple of things that can get a little bit confusing, especially if you went to go looking for those files. So you can just look up at my screen. I'll show you what I'm sort of talking about. So if we take a look at, this is my hard drive that's basically sitting on my computer. And you can see in the breakdown in here, when I go to just the root level of my hard drive, there is a library right here. This library has, this library is universal to the entire computer. So Apple does 3 different sets of libraries, and they're targeted at 3 different groups. So this one's targeted at anybody who would use this computer, anybody who would turn it on, at least using my hard drive to turn it on. And that's what this library is right here. Apple makes this thing visible to you. Again, there's not a ton of stuff that goes in here that you want to actually play around with. This is not where any of the stuff that we do gets saved. But just so that you understand that that is a library, that part exists. If that wasn't confusing enough, if you click on the system folder, there is another library in here that looks like it contains the exact same stuff, and it does. So this one is actually specific just to the system operating part of your computer. Now, again, this is going to be, if anything that goes in here is going to have an impact on anybody who starts this computer up, who's actually using this system. If you were to boot using an external hard drive or something like that, this would not necessarily take effect, but that's what's going on here. And then finally, if we take a look in the users group right here, inside the user, I'm going to look inside my user folder. You can see there is no library in here, and that is the hidden user library that we were talking about earlier. To get to that hidden library, you come up to the Go menu. If you click on the Go menu, you also will not see library in this drop-down menu right here. But if you hold down either the Shift key, in my case it's not the Shift key, or the Option key, in this case mine is the Option key, it will actually show you the user library. Now this has been deliberately hidden by Apple because Apple feels like it's too dangerous for you guys to have access to this thing. Or I guess their consideration is, their calculus is that if you're smart enough to figure out how to get to the library doing this, then you understand the perils and dangers of actually messing around inside of that library. So, but for us, this is where all the things that are kept that we were trying to get, like the camera profiles that you guys just built, or the custom workspace, or the custom preferences for Photoshop, all that kind of stuff, whatever, are kept in this user library. Because they're unique to you. This wouldn't be a universal library. The stuff that you have done on your own would not apply to another user using your computer, logging in under a completely different name, or under a completely different user. So anyway, I'm going to select this library to make it active, and then you can see that it is active right here. And then, hang on one second. So mine shows up as in my favorites. If you have not made your library of favorites, you will not. My screen looks like this. To make this your favorite, if you come up to the very top of your window, hover over the library part, you need to get to the little icon that looks like a folder, and you can drag that folder over into your favorites area on the side. Thanks. On the side, and let go, and that will put alias, a pointer to your user library in your favorites. And then from now on, you can, instead of doing the Option or Shift Go menu trick, you can simply click on the alias that's sitting in your favorites group and get to it right away. So with that said, again, once we get here, the files that you are looking for to turn in for your custom profiles would be under Application Support, under Adobe, under Camera Raw, under Camera Profiles, and you can sort of see the entire tree of it for me. So again, User Library, into Application Support, Adobe, Camera Raw, Camera Profiles, and this is where the custom ones are actually kept. Now, if you click and drag these things out, they are no longer going to be available to Photoshop. So instead, again, in a Macintosh world, you would want to grab one of these profiles. Let's say I wanted to drag this thing to my desktop. I would simply click. There's nothing simple about clicking and dragging anymore. Click and drag it to my desktop icon, and you'll notice that there is no, my cursor's unchanged here. And if I let go, you'll see what happens. I'm going to let go, and then my desktop has that profile. But if I go back and look in my library, application support, Adobe, Camera Raw, camera profiles, you'll see it's been removed from this guy. I don't want that to happen. So I'm hoping it's going to allow me to undo that move, and it does. So instead, you want to make a copy of it. Click and drag again. But before you let go on your desktop, hold down the Option key, and you'll see that your cursor turns into a little plus. And now when we let go here, you'll notice that I still have that DCP profile here. But if I go back, it's still, the copy of it still remains in the camera profile, so it's available to Photoshop. Are there any questions about that part? Okay, we need to talk about your homework now and how you actually are going to drop your homework. So I need everybody to log back into the server where we did the very first day, where you actually got all the assignment files. So again, if you come up in a Macintosh world, the Go menu down to Connect to Server, and I ask you to actually keep this link in there. If you did not keep that link in here, let me see if I can zoom in on this. I'll just read it out to you. The address of the server that you're looking for is A as in Apple, F as in Frank, P as in Paul, colon, / 172.20.208.221. And if you type that in there and then click on, again, I can't click on my plus because I've already got a favorite of it sitting right down here. But if you don't have it down there, before you hit connect, simply click on the little plus at the bottom. It'll actually then save you an alias of that server address so that you don't have to remember that part anymore. And then simply hit connect. Yes? I'm sorry, did what? How did you get to where the address is? So Go menu, connect to server at the bottom. And then type that address in that dialog box. So do you have the address? Yeah. Okay. For the people who are on Windows machines, I'm not leaving you out. And when you get to the Connect window, it's going to ask you for your username. You use the exact same login that you would do to log into one of these computers here in the digital lab to actually do your login. Mine's slightly different than yours, so do not put in what I'm going to put in on mine. And once you put in your username and your password, it should give you access to the server. And there's two folders that you have access to. You want to click on Class Projects, click OK, and then you will actually see there's a server that's mounted onto your computer. It's actually called Tikal, T-I-K-A-L. That's actually the server. On that server, you'll actually see Class Projects, and then if you scroll down to Engelhard, you will see that's our partition on the server. And in there, there is a Dropbox, and you are going to drop your homework onto that Dropbox. However, do not do that yet. That's the destination, and that will always be the destination for your homework for the rest of the semester. Before we get too deep in here, I want to make sure that the Windows people are actually on the same server. So to get to that, go to your assignments for the very first day of this class. So again, the retouching class number 1 files. I'm going to look in your student files, and there's a PDF also for the Macintosh people as well. For the Macintosh people, there's a PDF in there that how to connect to the class projects via Macintosh. But then there is another PDF that's how to connect to class projects, which is this folder that we're looking at via Windows. And if you open this up, It's a little bit simpler, I think, for the Windows people sometimes than it is for the Mac people. But nonetheless, this is the instructions for accessing this. You can actually also, if you're off campus, you need to connect via a VPN in order to get access to the campus network. And then it will it will seem to you like you're actually on campus, and you will still have to go through the Go menu to access the server. All the rest of those parts are the same. So this exists in the PDF for Macintosh people as well. If you're on campus, you do not need to go through this VPN to do this. You simply would actually come down to here, and this is what you do. For the Windows people, you go to the Run dialog box to get that to appear. You type in, you type with quotes included in this. So I think you have to put quotation marks on both sides of it, and you type in, again, quotation / 172.20.208.221 / class projects, and hit OK. You'll see what it looks like right down here. This is a screenshot of what it should look like. So we're, again, beginning quotes and closing quotes in both of that. Hit OK. Again, it's going to ask you for your username and for your password. That's the same thing you do to log into everything here on campus. Once you do that, class projects should open up to you. And again, you navigate to Engelhard, and then the drop box is where you're going to actually drop your stuff. Is everybody able to get to the server? Is anybody not able to get to the server? And are you on Windows or Mac? Okay, no forward slashes in the beginning, get rid of those. There's no plus in the beginning, get rid of it as well. Good, so AFP : / 172.02.01. Go ahead and click plus on that. It'll put that in there. You can, it'll always be remembered. Click on connect. And up at the very top, make sure that that is your username that you use. Guys, when you do your username, do you have to put in, you don't put in any colum.edu part, do you? Okay, I don't do it on, mine's completely different. That's why I don't really know how you guys do it. But anyway, that's your password. All right, and put it in and hit connect. And I'll wait and make sure you get there. And you are on the, you're on the network. Yeah, I'm going to let you do that. If you can't figure it out, we'll do it during the break. But you want to get on there. Okay. Everybody else okay? Again, you're going to do this every single week when you come in to put in your stuff. So then in terms of what you put in, so I am going to go to our Canvas site just because you can see the naming convention is on the Canvas site. And I think it's also in the assignment PDF. So again, if we go to our class number 2, to the student folder, inside of your assignment folder, this is the assignment and what it says. If you double click on it, it will actually tell you exactly how we go through this. So it's going to say up here at the top, create the custom profile, blah, 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 and it'll go through all of this explaining how you do that. Leave the originals place. This is the location of where those custom sensor profiles are kept in Mac. This is where they are on Windows. Then down here, again, the other 2 assignments or the other 3 assignments, all of this stuff is in here. So the naming convention is not on here, but it is on our website. So if we go to our Canvas site, and this will be on, I think, all of the assignments on the Canvas site, and I'll check and make sure. If not, it's something I'll put on my list to edit in. But I'm going to go to my Canvas site. You can do this with me, muscle memory. on our advanced retouching Canvas site. I'm going to go just to the student start here. It just takes you to the top of the modules page. And at the very top of the modules page under course overview, the very first of our class things. Again, remember the whole top part right here. There's really more resources for you campus-wide, but this specific class starts here. Click on course overview. And this tells you how I want you to name those files. So in the case of the first assignment, if we take a look at the PDF of what that said or what that called for, it's called for you to actually create a custom DNG profile for each of each of the capture sessions that are in the assignment folder. There's 4 of those sessions that are in there, so you should have 4 profiles to actually do. And again, what this is actually calling for, it's saying, okay, to turn in for this assignment, what I want you to do is name your file starting with your last name underscore first name underscore the assignment number. So remember, when I do assignments here, the session that it comes out of is the first of the numbers, and then the second number is which assignment in a group of assignments. So there were 4 assignments in our 5 assignments for week number 2. So the first one here would be assignment 2.1. So if I was going to, I'll show you how I would name this. So for the first of the profiles that I would put in for this assignment, it would be called Engelhard underscore Verser underscore 2.1. That's the assignment number. And if we only have a single image that's due or a single file to turn in, that's it. This is all you need to do. However, in the case of this, there's 4 separate files, and you cannot name all 4 files the exact same thing. So you do one more underscore, and then just put in either the image number or the file number. Again, so the first one would be named like this. I'm just going to copy that and do it again. The second one would be named with a 2, and the third one would be named with a 3. And you guys get where this is all going, correct? Now, when you have multiple files like this, the other thing you can do, if you do not want to go through that naming 1, 2, 3, 4 and all of that, you can create a folder that has this name on it. Again, your last name underscore first name underscore 2.1 underscore. You wouldn't need these numbers at the end. So this is what your file, this is what your folder naming would look like. It would just end in that 2.1. So that's what I need you to do for all the assignments, to name them correctly and accordingly, and either put them into folders or do them all individually numbered, that kind of stuff. And then when you get to class, you simply come to the server. Again, we'll go to our server, class projects, Engelhard, Dropbox, and this would be actually where they're all sitting, is right in here. Now I had why. Oh, I do know why I've got a bunch of stuff in here, but hang on one second. So you cannot see inside this Dropbox. But what I will do is I will actually put this up at the end of every class so that you can make sure you see the files that you turned in here and you know that they are good to go. Any questions about any of this? Shoot.
Just a double check. So, like, the assignment is 2.1, 2.2, whatever.
Yeah.
The folder that I put all of them in is my name. The format is just assignment 2.1, right? Like,
No.
What's the big folder?
So you don't do a big folder, because the problem is that I've got to go through here. If you do that, I've got to be the one to go in and separate it all out so that I can grade it, because I can't. I'm grading every assignment one at a time. So I grade 2.1 first, and then 2.2, and then 2.3. That's also why I need your last name to begin the name of your file, because it puts everything in alphabetical order, which is how the grade book goes. So it's just to simplify things for me.
So a folder for each assignment.
You can do a folder for each assignment, but again, you don't have to put in, if you've got just a single file, like the one file that you had to reprocess and all that, there's only one file. So there's no point in putting it in a folder. Just name that file that name.
All right, for sure.
Other questions?
That was my question too, because I have like everything in one folder right now.
If you could pull it apart, that would be great for me. Don't just dump it all in one folder and call it assignment 2. That just helps me. It just makes my life easier and faster. Are we good on this part? Are any other questions? Okay. Next thing, we're checking things off our list that we have not been able to get to. So we have not installed the Wacom driver in this class yet, have we? Or did we? Okay, so again, if we go back to our retouching class, in our class number 1, I think is where these files are. So again, go to the complete assignment folder, class number 1, student files number 1, and inside here you will actually see there's 2 installation pieces of software. They're both called Wacom Tablet 6.3.46. That's the version of it. One of them is, yes?
For the assignment 2.1, we were supposed to do the DNGs, but then I made them into like it's like 2.2 and 2.1 I did like together.
Run that by me again.
So the DNG I made into a profile. For the assignment 2.1, do you want the profile or do you want the DNG?
So the assignment calls for, if we take a look at this, so the assignment, it says create a custom DNG profile user, either the profile color checker or the editor, which anyway, I'd never showed you the original DNG profile editor because it's orphan piece of software. For each, name the DNG profile with the respective raw file name, not the assignment number. Save the profiles to use them. Completing instructions can be found here, blah, 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 blah. This is where you actually want to find it. So the first part is asking for the profile of your sensor, not the DNG file. The second one is going to be a DNG profile that actually has that custom profile and a color white balance applied to it.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then the third one is a dodge and burn file for a single fashion image that I gave you guys. And then the fourth one is the Bruce Fraser dodge and burn file that we actually did last week in class. And then the fifth part of the assignment is just to simply read the resources that are in session 2 resources. Okay, so back to the software part of this. If you are on a Macintosh, you want to double click on the DMG file. If you're in Windows, you want to click on the EXE file. What we are doing is we're installing the software to actually be able to use a Wacom tablet. So whatever system that you're on, I need you to go ahead and launch that respective software and go through the whole process, answer all the questions. I'm not sure how much stuff comes up in the Windows process, but I know there's, all software installers now have reached the point where they ask you repeatedly, are you sure you want to do this? You know we need to turn security preferences on. I mean, all the questions just say yes, yes, yes. Tell them that you will send them your firstborn child, that you will give them $1,000 every month for the rest of your life, that you will, I don't know, yeah. So anyway, I need everybody to do that now because we can't do anything with a Wacom tablet until that part happens. It's conceivable you might actually hit the point where you have to restart. If that's the case, just go ahead and restart. It's not a problem. For the Macintosh people, let me do this. If anybody comes up, if there's a dialog box that comes up and it's posing a question to you that you do not understand, hold off right there, raise your hand, yell out, hey, verse or whatever, and we'll figure out what it is it's asking you to do. And then we'll move on.
I got a question.
Shoot.
I was gonna like show you.
Oh, sure.
So like these two can be folders with the profiles and the DNGs,
Uh-huh.
and these can just be one
Yeah.
by itself.
Yeah.
Alright, cool.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
we can drag them in there right now.
And yeah, go ahead and, yeah, if you've got your files, your homework files already done and ready to go ahead and throw them in the Dropbox. But I won't, it doesn't matter. I'll show it to you at the end of the class. So it doesn't matter when you do it today as long as you do it.
So I have work tablet thing downloaded on my laptop, I have an old version of Photoshop on my laptop and it won't let me update it. So I was gonna, yeah.
No, it's probably not letting you update it because of your system.
Because I got the laptop from the old school I was at and they were really weird about updates.
Uh-huh.
So like it's very far behind. Oops. So it pulls up that.
Yeah, you don't want to go through here anyway. So I'm going to cancel out of here. And we'll take a look at your applications. I'm just going to change how this looks so it's easier for me to figure this out. So what we're looking for is cloud. And you are going to double click on Creative Cloud. And yeah, so you need to connect. Retry. They've shut this computer down. So, no, do your work on this.
It won't let me download the without an administrator.
Oh, you don't need to worry about it on these computers because these already have it on it.
Okay.
Okay, so you, at least I'm pretty sure they do. Are you logged in as Windows on? Do you? No, this has got to be Mac.
Yeah.
It's got to be Mac.
Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, you're already loaded on here. So it'll work for you. So connect your welcome tablet to this.
Okay.
For this, I can help you break this, but you and I need to get together and do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Real quick, what?
So, I'm trying to find the files that I saved last night. I cannot for the life of me, so I was just trying to go back to Lightroom and export them after they have the camera profiles.
Okay.
It's not, I don't know if you know anything about this. It's just not opening and my hard drive's connected.
I would try a reboot completely. But we really want to be doing this in Photoshop regardless anyway, instead of in Lightroom.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so when you go into Photoshop, you don't know where you saved the files that you actually worked on for this?
I thought that well, okay, because I know that in my library I have all the profiles. They're all right here.
Right.
But I don't know where the images, the DNG ones are. I cannot find them for the light.
Okay, so did you do the DNG work in Lightroom or in Photoshop?
I believe I did it in Lightroom.
Yeah, so in that case, it's probably still sitting in Lightroom. You didn't ever create a Photoshop file or a TIFF file. It's still just sitting in your Lightroom catalog as a raw file. Okay, so let's get together during the break, and because as long as you've got these, you've got most of that work done, at least for the first 2 assignments. The reprocessing one, though, you don't have.
Okay.
Right, so you have the Castle one that we did last week, but you don't have the file because that can't be done in Lightroom. It has to be done in Photoshop.
Yes, the castle one I did in Photoshop.
Right, but there's also, it's a file that's not this, but similar to that you were supposed to do that same reprocessing technique on. Okay, don't worry, we'll figure it out during the break, and as long as you get it to me, as long as it gets onto the server before I grade it, it won't be late. Yes? Okay, I'll go there, and I'll be right there. Oh no, this is this part. Okay, so guys, this is what came up on this Macintosh, and this is something everybody needs to know because otherwise your computer will not work. So it's saying that you need to open security preferences in order to give permission for this to actually happen in Photoshop. And I need to figure out which one it is. Unlock the, Okay, so watch my screen. If you're on a Macintosh, this is what you need to do. So what's happening is that the Wacom software that you're installing wants to give your Wacom tablet control so that you can actually do things with it. And Macintosh has security settings that shuts that down, or not shuts it down, prevents that. So to fix it, come up to the Apple menu. So I need everybody on Macintosh to do this with me. Come down to System Preferences. So if you don't know where it is, take a look at my screen. Click on System Preferences. In the system preference that opens up, there is a panel for security and privacy. You need to click on that. Once you get here, you need to go to, there's 4 tabs across the top. You need to go to the Privacy tab. You need to then click on the lock that's in the lower left-hand corner to unlock this. You need to either use your thumbprint or type in your password to actually unlock this. And then you will see there is a series of services that exist in a scroll down panel on the left. And then there's the programs that you want to actually enable this stuff to on the right. For your all's stuff, for Wacom tablets, on the panel that's on the left, you want to scroll down to pick Accessibility. And then in that accessibility, you should see there can be a number of things that have the word Wacom in it. Anything that has the word Wacom in it, you need to put a check mark by. So there is a com.wacom IO manager. If you scroll down a little bit more, there may be another one in here. Just make sure, yep, there's 2 more of them down here on my computer. Yours may be different. A Wacom tablet driver app, a second version of that. You want to put check marks into both of those. And that should take care of this part. Also click on the next tab, not tab, but the next option in the panel on the left that says Input Monitoring. And you're going to do the same thing there. Go through and anything in here that says Wacom driver, click the little check mark next to that. Make sure you scroll up to the top and that there isn't something up at the top that's looking for the same thing. You can click on the access to stuff. I don't think Wacom really looks for anything in here, so I'm going to check through here on mine really fast just to make sure it's not. Yeah, no, I don't think there's anything in here that it's looking for. Oh, I take that back. Full disk access, there may be a Wacom tablet utility and also a Wacom desktop center. And actually, the Wacom driver tablet, the Wacom tablet driver app is also in there. So you do need to go into full disk access and make sure that, again, you check anything in there that has got the name Wacom in it. And again, make sure that you understand that, like in the case of accessibility, that one of them starts with the word com.wacom. So just make sure you look at it. The little icon for the Wacom, it looks like that sort of like colored set of horns, is, I think, consistent for most of them. It's not for all of them. Files and folders, I'm going to look at that. And I don't see, actually, it looks like there may be one in there, but it also doesn't look like there are any check marks in there, so I don't think you need to deal with any of that. And let me check to see if there's anything else in here. There's nothing else in any of this. So again, it was in accessibility and full disk access is what you really need to do all of this stuff. And once you've checked all of those, you can actually close this up. It'll go ahead and relock your preferences when you do it. So, does everybody, are we all through getting this thing installed, we hope? Okay, so go ahead and hook up your Wacom tablet. It's a USB, it connects on, I've got a Bluetooth version of mine, so, but I think all the ones that you have from the school here are USB. So again, connect the tablet via USB, and as soon as you do that, hopefully mine is here, you can test this by taking your stylus. So the stylus in here, I'm sorry, you said, did you guys figure out what you need to get figured out?
It's more just me needing to tell you something.
Oh, tell me.
Yeah, I forgot my Wacom tablet on my desk,
Okay.
so I don't have it with me at the moment, but
Okay.
I do have one.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not sure we're going to be using it a ton today, so just kind of follow along. You'll be fine. Okay. Anyway, Your stylus, how many people in here have ever used a graphics tablet? So Caleb, Jack, okay, so a little bit. Okay, so you guys, some people have a little bit of experience, the rest of you don't. Don't worry about it. So if you take a look at your pen, your stylus here, there are two ends of the stylus. It's supposed to resemble a real pen. There's a pointy end and then there's a stubby end. The pointy end is what you use to actually do positive marks. The stubby end is an eraser. So it's supposed to work just like a pencil or a pen would actually work. You'll also notice on the pointy end that there is a rocker switch, and that rocker switch is designed to actually provide you mouse clicks. It's for different actions. And we can actually control what actions are performed when you push that rocker switch either forward or backward. So it's a rocker switch. If you push the little part forward, you get one set of controls. If you push it backward, you get a different set of controls. So that's basically the pen in a nutshell. It is pressure sensitive, so the harder you push on your tablet, depending on what we've got set up, you'll get a different result. So to configure this, and again, in terms of using, if you're on Windows, I believe, but the Windows people hopefully here will know this better than I do. Is anybody in here on Windows today? Okay, no, that's fine. I think you guys need to go to control panels to do this. And you will find, and if you go to your control panels, you will see that there is hopefully a Wacom setup dialog, a place where you can click on the Wacom tablet to actually configure it. For the people who are on Macintosh, it is in your system preferences. So again, up to your Apple menu, down to system preferences, and you should see a Wacom tablet at the very bottom of your system preferences. So is everybody able to find the control panel? If you click on it, you'll actually double click on it, it will actually bring up a way to control your Wacom tablet, and you should get something that looks like this. The Windows people should also get something that looks just like this. Does anybody not have this? Okay, so if you look at the very top of this, you can see that there's a place for applications, and the thing about this is that you can configure your Wacom tablet to work universally across all applications. That's what all other would be. I personally don't put a lot of stuff in here. I do have Adobe Photoshop in here because occasionally I will want to configure my Adobe Photoshop controls differently. But if you've never used a Wacom tablet before, I suggest that you just leave this blank, and we are going to set up your tablet to work universally. So with that said, there's a series of tabs along the bottom that are just right underneath what application it's going to be in. Oh, by the way, if you want to add an application, you just click on the little plus thing. If you want to get rid of an application, you click on it and click on the little minus thing. If you've got 1,000 applications, you can scroll left to right, blah, 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 blah. Right underneath that, there is 4 tabs: tablet, pen, mapping, and on-screen controls. I want you to make sure that you've got tablet selected, and then in this drop-down menu, you will actually have in these express keys. It's really difficult to see, and some tablets will be different, so my screen may not be the same as yours, but what it's actually referring to is, on my tablet, there's a series of buttons that run along the top that you can configure to do different things. There's some Wacom tablets like, do you have one from the school? No, I just want to see. Yeah, that one's the same. In other versions of Wacom tablets, they'll have a series of buttons that run down the side. Some of them have a little control wheel. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't use any of that stuff. I use the tablet pretty straight for what it is. If you are a person who works with this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whatever, you're going to want to configure these things. But for the most of the work that we're going to do in here, it simply doesn't matter. We're not doing that radically a different work. I think if you were like a painter or somebody who wanted to do work on this, that might be different. In terms of using this, I can say to this right now, you cannot retouch without a Wacom tablet. You simply cannot do it. Eventually, if you do this work seriously, you're going to have to buy one of these. But the thing that I will tell you is that the work, as far as what we do in Photoshop, you can buy the cheapest one, which is this one right here. I got this one refurbished for 70 bucks. You don't need a big tablet to do the work we do. We are usually working on a very small spot. And so if you've blown your image up considerably, you've got a lot of space, a lot of real estate to be working on this guy. You do not need that big giant ass tablet. You certainly don't need the version of the tablet that has an LCD screen on it that you can actually work right on the screen. You don't need that stuff. If you were a painter, somebody who actually needs to do big broad strokes and that kind of stuff, then yes, you need a much larger tablet than this. But for the work that we do in Photoshop, it is a waste of money. And you can get a Wacom tablet for $4,000 or $5,000. You don't need that. So anyway, just to make sure everybody's good on that part. So anyway, if you click on the modifier keys, you'll see that you can change what they do. So this first one is a keyboard. The second one is keyboard. And again, if we take a look, it's a modifier key. These are the modifier keys that are actually being done. Anyway, you can change all of these to your heart's content. I don't use them. It shows your battery level. I don't use that either. If we click on pin now, this is where things change. If you click on pin, you'll actually see that at its defaults, your tip feel is actually set in the middle, and so is your double click distance. And so to see what that really means, pick the pin up, make sure that you're working with the stylus in. Now, one of the mistakes that people make when they first start working with Wacom tablets is they pick the pin up and they end up using the eraser end and not the stylus end. And you cannot figure out what is going wrong, and it's because you've got the wrong end. You're not using the stylus end, you're using the eraser end. Make sure you use the stylus end part of it. So with that, you can actually come over on your tablet. You should see that your cursor is actually moving in response to where you are on the tablet. Has anybody got a tablet set up, connected, where your cursor is not moving? Okay. If you actually press down on it, you will actually see how much pressure you need to go from a minimum stroke to the maximum stroke on here. So, for instance, we can set up a Wacom tablet to control opacity. So a very light touch, you can see I'm very barely touching this, would only give me like a 20-30% opacity, which is where a heavy touch, where I'm really pressing down, would give me 100% opacity. Again, people will go in and fine-tune this stuff. Some people like to feel like they need to press harder for this to actually work. It gives them a finer degree of control. If you're that person, you can drag the slider to the firmer edge, and you'll see now it actually takes considerably more force to get to the maximum line. There's some people who like a much easier touch, in which case you can go to a much softer touch, in which case barely tapping your tablet down onto the top will actually take you all the way to the maximum. Again, if you're just starting out with these things, I suggest you leave it in the middle. Double click distance has to do with this. If you come to your, I just need to go, let's go to our class 1 folder. Come in, and there, inside our class 1 folder, there is the assignment .pdf. And you'll notice I just clicked on it once and nothing happened. It selected it, but it didn't open. If I click outside of it and I come back again and I click once and I wait, 1, 2, 3, and then click again, that's a double click. But because there was so much time between the two, it did not launch. However, if I double click really quickly on it, it launches immediately. That's what's going on with this double click distance on your Wacom tablet. Because you're actually lifting your stylus off the screen and back onto the screen, occasionally it can get confused. Your tablet goes, well, is that 2 taps or is that a double click? That's what this distance control would actually do. You can actually turn that completely off so that your Wacom tablet, no matter how fast you tap it onto your stylus onto your tablet, it won't launch anything. Everything will be considered a single click. Again, if you want to have a larger space in between that, you can crank it all the way up. Large will actually, it's just changing the time interval between the two. Again, my suggestion is that you leave it right where it is. The 2 drop-down menus that you have on the side actually are the controls. So right now, by default, what happens is that this is for the rocker switch. So if you press the button that is closest to the stylus, the one that's sort of at the bottom, if you were to hold your stylus up and down, it actually acts as a scroll. If you actually click on the back of the rocker switch, the one that's closer to the eraser end, it actually acts as a right-click drop-down. So again, if I come over here into my image right here, and I'm going to right-click back, you'll actually see, I'll do it over a word really quick. It's not going to do it there. We'll do it in Let's see what else I have open. Anyway, you guys get where I'm going here. Usually right clicks give you drop down menus. Control clicks do the same thing. So anyway. Again, I would leave this in the beginning at its preferences, at its defaults. The next thing over on the tabs is mapping. If you click on mapping, what this does is that it allows you to do, how does this screen, how does this tablet relate to your screen? So by default, it will be full tablet to full screen area, meaning that the live active area of your tablet, the top right-hand corner of your tablet will be the top right-hand corner of your screen. The bottom right corner of your tablet will be the bottom right corner of your screen, and so on. So that's typically how it's actually set up. You'll also notice there's a mouse button here. There are Wacom tablets that come with their own dedicated mouse, and you can actually configure these different for one another. In my case, though, I've got this small tablet right here. What I don't like about this small tablet is this, and you're just going to have to see how I do it. When I get down to the very lower edge of my tablet, my hand comes off the tablet and rests on the desk. That's really uncomfortable for me. I hate the way that actually works. So what I do is I actually take the bottom border of my tablet, the live area of my tablet, and I boost it up into the middle so that I can keep resting my hand on the tablet but still get to the bottom of my image. Yes?
My pen doesn't like the click doesn't work, the click function. Like nothing actually clicks and the buttons don't do anything.
Then actually just do this part, the configure part with your mouse, so you don't need to worry about whether it's doing the tablet or not. But because clearly as you move your hand around, it's actually working on, it's moving your cursor, and that's all you care about. If it doesn't work in Photoshop, we need to figure that out. So for me, and again, this is only personal preference, I would suggest, again, you probably should leave yours at the defaults just to see how you like it. But you can see on mine, if I click on proportion, it will actually bring up a mapping screen, and you can see here what I've done. I've actually raised the bottom up. I'll pull it back down right here so you can see that would actually be full screen. You can move these sliders around. You can actually do coordinates for this. These are all in pixels. But anyway, that's basically how you would actually set a remap. I'm going to hit cancel here again to leave it as proportion. However, where this really comes into play is that does anybody in here working on twin screens, double screens, or triple screens? This allows you to actually configure your tablet to a multi-screen setup. So a lot of people, for instance, will have one screen that's only showing the results of something. They will have a center screen that is their real workspace, and then they'll have another screen, so you can set this up so that your tablet only works on the one screen in the middle. You can set it up so that it works only on the two, the one on the left and the one in the middle, or you can set it up to work on all three. It is pretty much configurable any way you want to do it. But that's what's going on there. Yes? Wait, I'm sorry, what?
Like the buttons on the pen,
Yeah.
they're just not working.
Well, are you in system preferences right now?
Yeah, is that why?
Well, there's nothing in system preferences for them to do. That's okay. And then finally, on-screen controls. If you click on this, you'll actually see that there's all sorts of shortcuts that you can actually assign to all of this kind of stuff. Again, I don't touch any of this stuff right now. Frankly, I don't touch this stuff ever, but I would strongly suggest in the beginning here, don't touch any of this stuff. Because the problem that you get is that if you set this up to say you want to control opacity with pressure universally, then you can't turn it off unless you go into this space and turn it off. Most programs allow you to actually assign things like that, Photoshop is one of them, individually within the app, which is what you really want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and close this up. It's actually set up. And as long as you've got a control that you can actually click on this stuff and move stuff around, then we are good to go in this. Everybody good on this part? Okay. I'm going to turn my tablet off to save its power. You're plugged in. You don't need to worry about any of that. Okay. We have a small amount of color theory left, and then we are done with color theory for the rest of the semester. So again, this is not anywhere near as daunting as the last stuff was, so don't like think, oh fuck, he's gonna do another one of these and I'm gonna like just go to sleep right now. Last one. Let's do this. I'm going to fire this guy up right here. This seems like a really good time for a break. Are there any questions before we do a quick break about Wacom Tablet? Okay, let's call this 5 minutes till. Let's make it 5 after. So if we could do 2:05, that would be great. Make it a hard 10 and we'll be good to go. Again, you will see, I promise you, there are only 9 slides here that matter and we'll get through them really quick. So don't despair.